This episode of We Are Libertarians is brought to you by Audible.com. Enjoy one free audiobook courtesy of We Are Libertarians. Choose from more than 100,000 audiobook titles, including works by Ron Paul, Walter Block, Murray Rothbard, and the Cato Institute. Audible.com also has audio of radio and TV programs and audio versions of magazines and newspapers. You can get the Audible app on any mobile device or download the audio to your computer. Go to audibletrial.com/WAL or head to WeareLibertarians.com and find the link to get one free month of Audible today. Joining us on the line is former governor of New Mexico, Gary Johnson, and he was the 2012 presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. And he is joining us to talk about various issues of the day. Governor Johnson, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys and appreciate you having me on. I'm in Washington, D.C. today to talk at the Stop Watching Us rally, Stop Spying on Us, due process, Fourth Amendment, this massive gathering of intelligence. Who's looking over law enforcement? Who's looking over NSA's shoulder? Well, obviously nobody, because, this three-judge panel grants the NSA authority to tap 113 million Verizon users. That, to me, is just egregious overreach on the part of government. And, there's hopefully going to be a massive rally today on the front steps of the Capitol.
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, I was going to ask you about that because I'd heard from Joe Hunter that you were going to be out there. How did you get involved in that event, and what prompted it, and what's your role there?
Well, I'm just one of 12 speakers, but it's a who's who when it comes to speakers. I think the guy that's credited with founding the internet is one of the speakers, and so I certainly want to. I think libertarians have taken a lead on this issue from day one, and I think libertarian voice needs to be represented without the need to say that I'm the libertarian voice, but I am obviously the libertarian voice.
What can we do to help fight the NSA? I think you've seen nations come out and start speaking out against it and start to sign pacts, and obviously this rally is taking place, but what are some other steps that the average American citizen can take to fight the NSA spying?
Well, I think one of the big issues with this massive surveillance is just the apathy on the part of most Americans. It doesn't affect me, so I really don't care. I mean, that's the overwhelming attitude by people. I think events like this really bring about awareness and anger. I think that Angela Merkel, when she announces that she's one of 35 world leaders that are being tapped, her cell phone being tapped by the U.S., I think that raises awareness. When, Snowden's disclosures, 125 billion cell phone conversations are being monitored every month by the NSA. The NSA is literally collecting every internet transaction that you and I make, and every phone call that you and I make is a record. People aren't aware of that. When people become aware of that, I think there's a general sense of distrust and outrage.
Now, while you were governor of New Mexico, when you were running for governor, you had a campaign promise to reduce New Mexico's 10% annual budget increase, and you were able to increase education funding by nearly a third, but you reduced other parts of the budget proportionally to meet that promise. And this gave you political cover against attacks that you're against children and education, and you also proved to the other side, to the deficit hawks, that you're serious about fiscal restraint. This sort of framework where you boost the funding for parts your opponents can't wait to attack while staying true to your principles is a great political move. What are some other issues that this thinking can be applied to?
Well, I think the current budget in Washington today, the notion of being able to balance the federal budget. Just for a second, too, if I could talk about increased educational funding. I did make a promise to increase educational funding as a percentage of the state revenue for each year I was in office. Having done that, it gave me the ammunition, if you will, to really come out and be more outspoken regarding school choice than any governor in the country. Look, the model for future education in this country is the Khan Academy, and it's free. That's the model. It's free. So just increasing spending, like I say, what I found is that no matter how much money you put into public education, measurable results seem to get worse from one year to the next, no matter how much money you spend. So it's not a question of money. That said, now let's turn to the federal budget and the need to balance the federal budget. Well, how do you do that? Well, you can do that with a butter knife. You don't have to do that with a meat cleaver. You can do that with a butter knife, and it needs to be willingness on the part of Republicans to cut military spending, and it needs to be done with Democrats to have a willingness to cut entitlement spending. And I don't include Social Security as cuts so much as just reforming Social Security, but it is Medicaid, it is Medicare, and who's to say how much the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, is going to end up costing?
Now, you received the praise of William F. Buckley for reframing the drug usage as a health problem and not a criminal issue. And William F. Buckley obviously is one of the founders of the modern conservative movement. Do you think the GOP needs a similar rewrite in their platform today? And can social and fiscal conservatives strike the necessary bargains in order to create a legislative change? Or are we just stuck to this barbarous relic of the past? I mean, it seems to me that a lot of you come out for drug reform, you're labeled as, you just want to smoke pot. What are your thoughts on the drug war?
I think Republicans are sideways on five issues that the majority of Americans would side otherwise. And included in those five issues are drug reform. Included in those issues are marriage equality. Included in those issues are immigration reform, military spending, and abortion rights, women's rights. I think that Republicans are sideways with the majority of Americans on those issues, and if they don't, look, it's okay to have a social conservative agenda. There's nothing wrong with anyone who has those beliefs. But the way you change other people's lives is to lead your life by example. And if you are a social conservative and you want to lead others, lead your life by that example and change other people's lives. But if you make those issues public policy, if you start to pass laws to try and enact with regard to those issues, you end up criminalizing activity that's taking place and will continue to take place.
So, Governor, after running as a Libertarian candidate, do you believe it's possible for the next presidential candidate, whether that, we hope it's you, but if it's not you, that another good candidate, do you think it's possible for them to build on the 1% that you started, that you've set the bar at? Or is the correct tactic to now work within the Republican or Democratic parties to try to influence their lives and to move them towards libertarian values and policies?
Well, right now, one of the maddening things for me is that every single Republican out there that describes themselves as a Republican/libertarian is a social conservative. every one of them are sideways on the 5 issues that I just mentioned. And if that's the case, Republicans are not going to rise to the occasion at all. So I don't want to call it a niche, but me as a spokesperson for libertarian ideas and beliefs, I arguably am the most prominent spokesperson for those ideas and beliefs, and I think they are reflective of the majority of Americans. You know, I think I would be next president of the United States if people would have just understood what I stood for, and I base that on the website isidewith.com. You guys probably got on that website during the last election, but 3.5 million people took a test, answered 36 questions, and then at the end of the 36 questions, you got paired up with the candidate most in line with your views. Now, it's one thing to have the same views as the majority of Americans, and it's another thing to actually govern. Well, I think I got the governing part because I do have that experience. But based on just beliefs, I was the next president of the United States. And so who out there, and not that there aren't thousands out there talking the same way that I do, but when you start rising to the level of national spokesperson, like I say, currently, everybody's focusing on Rand Paul and what he has to say because he's a libertarian. Well, no, not really, because he's sideways on those 5 issues that I mentioned.
So in the last election, you weren't allowed, even though that you are, and I would agree with your assessment that you are the spokesperson right now for the Libertarian Party, at least in some respects, as you mentioned. But in the last election, you were not allowed to participate in the national debates with now President Obama and Mitt Romney. You know, even though you were the one with the executive experience, with the populist ideals, as you mentioned, from the I Side with the site. So what we're wondering is, what's the status of your current lawsuit? Because this truly is, at least I believe, the way that third-party candidates and specifically libertarian candidates become prominent. So what is the status of the lawsuit to get the Libertarian candidate into the next set of debates? And do you believe that the Libertarian Party should run a presidential candidate without debate access? Because it seems like the inability to get that message on the national stage and have it compared to the 2 mainstream candidates, it's just so crucial, and without it, it just seems to be a constant uphill battle.
No, I think you've hit it on the head. I mean, without being in the debates, there's no chance that you win. The only chance I had of winning was to appear in the national debates. And if I would have, I think, well, at least I would have had the opportunity. You know, the big issue for me is that they set a criteria for the national debates that you have to be at 15% nationally in polls. Well, how can you be at 15% nationally in the polls when you're not mentioned in any single poll that is conducted? I've said one very fair way of dealing with all this is that if you have the potential of being president of the United States by garnering enough electoral votes, meaning you're on the ballot in enough states to have enough electoral votes to become president, I say that should be a requirement that your name appear in polls as to who should become the next president. I think that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, who the hell is Gary Johnson? In the last presidential election, there were 4 candidates that potentially could have been president: Obama, Romney, myself, and Jill Stein from the Green Party. Very, very fair way of doing this, but yes, we do have a lawsuit, but others have filed a lawsuit. We have a different tilt on our lawsuit, claiming that it's unfair trade. I'm sorry that I'm at a loss for words on our claim, but bottom line is I'm not very optimistic at all that it's, you know, that we're going to do anything different than others haven't done before, and And like I say, we're trying this from a different angle.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're seeing the impacts of this debate access also in Virginia right now with the governor's race and Sarvis in particular. You know, he was polling at 10%, and what the big problem with that is that they had set the bar at 10%, and when they realized he was going to hit it, they changed the rules on him. So they went from 10% in one poll to a mixture, an average of 3 running polls, and that dropped him back to 9%. And I'm just wondering, you know, Governor, what can we do? You know, what is the actual remedy to this debate access? Because it seems like even if you do, so let's say you run again in 2016 and you hit that 15% threshold, it seems like that at any time they can change the rules and still keep you out.
No, that is the frustrating aspect of all of this, and if you want to throw up your hands and give up, well, that's not this guy. That's not me. But you know, at a point, you know, tilting at windmills just is tilting at windmills.
Governor Johnson, just to clarify, I remember a point at the National Convention for the Libertarian Party when you were seeking the presidential nomination, and there were some that seemed skeptical of your proposal because you had most recently been with the Republican Party. Now, you reassured them that if they made an investment in you, you would make an investment in them in return. And you even seem to emphasize that it would not be this hit-and-run type of campaign, that if you didn't win in 2012, you'd continue working hard, and you might try again in 2016. My question is, does that sentiment still hold true? A lot of people just want to know straight up, will you run for the Libertarian Party in 2016?
Well, the proposal, if you will, or the potential of doing that, absolutely exists. Yes, but
okay.
Right now I'm the honorary chairman of Our America Initiative, and that gives me the ability to be able to travel and speak out on issues of the day. And I can't be a declared candidate and do what I'm doing, but to say that in fact might not play out, that might very well play out again.
Now, how'd you get involved with the Our America Initiative?
Well, it's my organization. It's something that I have founded, and I'm the honorary spokesperson. So. Much like Campaign for Liberty was Ron Paul's organization, my organization is Our America Initiative. So for anybody listening, if you just Google Gary Johnson, I think the first thing that comes up is Our America Initiative.
Okay, and one last question. You've said in the past that one of your life goals was to climb the highest peaks on every continent, and I think you just returned from South America. Is that correct?
Actually, I just returned from Indonesia, where for the last month I've been in Indonesia climbing Karsten's Pyramid, which ended up to be the hardest 12 days that I've ever spent in my life, going through the jungle and plateau and mud and rain to end up climbing what ended up to be a technical climb on Karsten's 5'8", for those that are rock climbers may be listening. But it was extremely difficult, and so now Karsten's Pyramid, highest mountain on the continent of Australasia. So for me now, I have climbed 6 of the highest mountains on the 7 continents. I have Antarctica to go, which is Vincent in Antarctica.
Wow. I might walk 400 steps today. That's pretty impressive. You climbed Everest with a broken leg, which was really impressive.
To say that I climbed Everest with a broken leg, that would be a bold-faced lie. But I did go to Everest really with a broken leg. I went to Nepal with a healing broken leg, believing that it would be healed enough by the time that summit day rolled around. And I actually suffered frostbite on Everest because of my broken leg and lack of circulation. Wasn't something that I planned. And by the way, I was not summiting thinking that Well, I'm getting frostbite, but I'm getting to the summit. The frostbite came as a complete surprise, but it had to do with a healing broken leg.
Ugh. Well,
when do you plan on making the trip down to Antarctica? Just out of curiosity.
Well, right now I'm looking at next December, a year from this December, which is in Antarctica. That's the start of summer, and 24-hour sunlight, and still darn cold when it comes to Antarctica, and big undertaking, just as Karstens. I will tell you that the 12 days nonstop on Karstens hiking, and I use that term very loosely, hiking through the jungle and through the plateau to actually get to base camp on Karstens was 45 miles one way and then 45 miles back. Those 12 days were harder than anything that I had on Everest. It was really it was just extremely difficult.
Well, Governor Johnson, we thank you for your time. What is the best way that people can follow what you're doing and support your work?
Well, the best way is Our America, OurAmericaInitiative.com. I think you get on the website, you get on our email list, and we're putting out a great product. I think every other day, and it's in my opinion, it's something to be proud of, and in my opinion, it's reflective of the way that most people really think.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and good luck today in Washington, D.C.
All right. Terrific. Thank you, guys.